Hey, Shalom Akim Shalom. First thing and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone. Peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect. It was in this gospel of our the standard of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, Reverend B. This is just a quick lesson through the spirit. Did get a chance to do the in transit today. It's kind of running behind again, and the spirit is moving so quick. You got to kind of catch your footing, man. So finding that inspiration and different articles and so forth. The spirit is literally picked up 100 paces, and we got to keep up with it, which is not always the easiest thing to do because it could be quite overwhelming trying to move at a pace. But nonetheless, man, we've been given examples that we must follow. Okay, like the scriptures say, give diligence to make thy calling and election sure. If you do these things, you shall not fail. So whatever you have to do to get your foot how about you, Yahweh Shai, to have favor upon you in that day, man. Because honestly, brothers, it's not gonna get no easier from this point, man. Okay, it's not gonna get any easier. It's not gonna get any slower. Okay, it's not gonna get any docile, man. It's gonna pick up, and the spirit is gonna continue to increase at a rapid rate, and we gotta keep up with it. And if you find yourself having a hard time of keeping up with that spirit, it's time to pray. It's time to fast. It's time to ask the Lord for guidance, man. It's time to go back to the drawing board. It's time to open the book back up, go back into the lessons and take notes. And I'm telling myself this because, it's nothing to do with 2-3 shows a day. That's quite simple. But sometimes you just got to find an inspiration, man. Sometimes the spirit be on you. You don't feel like doing shit. Sometimes you're like, all right, I got it. And then, you miss it. That's why Apostle Ramlab always say, strike while the iron is hot. But see, we have examples that we have to follow. Okay, now if you look at the apostles and elders and other brothers in his faith, how they move in the spirit, we're supposed to follow that example, man, and not get weary by good doing, and not get burnt out by doing the right thing, or not getting intimidated, or not getting down on yourself because you're not keeping up with the next man works. Okay, once again, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So you got to find your pace in this thing, but ultimately you have to keep a pace. Because even if you run in a race and you're the slowest runner, hey, you just can't stay still. You got to move, okay? Like back on the Bugs Bunny commercials, they had the race between the rabbit and the turtle. Okay, now the rabbit was fast. He was moving at his own pace. He was speeding, coasting. And the turtle was slow and stagnant. But guess what? The turtle still made it across the finish line. As slow as he was, he still made it. Why? Because he kept a diligent pace. And that's basically what I'm saying through the spirit. The examples that we must proceed forth with, man. Because it's getting harder. Okay, so I typed an example. I don't have any particular precepts in mind, so the spirit, just type an example and just see what pops up, because we just follow the spirit. Because you're going to find out that things we do in this thing is not rehearsed. And the more seasons you get in this thing, you're going to realize that you're going to do things off the spirit. It's not going to be rehearsed. Like back in the day, you come up with a lesson, you have certain scriptures written, you have that written, and then you go off that. Shit, I ain't done that in a long time, man. So basically, it's not rehearsed. You just go through the spirit. All right. So this is the book of John 13, and I'm gonna start at verses. Let's start at verses 14. It says, if I then your Lord and Master have washed your feet, ye also to wash another's feet. For I've given you an example that ye should do as I have done to you. Okay, and that example I want to allude to is the works that the men of the Lord are doing. Okay, you see the apostles and elders putting out shows and so forth like that. You want to try your best to follow that example because, hey, that's the spirit. And you got to flow with the spirit. Because the scriptures tell you about a man that's trying to walk uphill as the feet of the age. Because if you go against that grain, it's just going to be harder for you in the long run. So you got to try to emulate that spirit and flow with it. Okay, even if you may not be able to put out the volume that they put out, you can't let that discourage you. And you got to keep pushing, man. Even if you're doing a 5-minute show, 10-minute show, exhortation, you're doing something on herbs, whatever it may be. You may just pick up the video and say, Shalom, I got a precept I want to just go into, a quick hit and be done with it. Because you got your moments when you like that. You got your moments when sometimes you just don't really know what to go into because there's so much happening. But you don't want to sound redundant or repetitive. But the truth is repetitive. Okay? The truth is highly repetitive because for the simple fact, shit, when you look at the lessons, it's around the same thing. Prophecy, exhortation, the mark of the beast. Okay? Who the 12 tribes are. It's the same account on all levels of this thing. And we got to remember that. And it says here, For I've given you an example that ye should do as I've done unto you. But verily, verily, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord, neither he that is sent greater than him that sent him. Okay, so that's the thing. We follow the example that the men of the Lord set up. We push forth and we continue to go. And it says, if ye know these things, happy are ye if ye do them. Okay, if you do them. So we want to be occupied in this thing. We want to be, occupied. We want to be satisfied in the works that we're doing, because you can never do enough to please Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. But it's the valuable effort that counts. Okay, because it's all about the effort, because we know that our works alone is not going to save us. Doing 100 shows a week is not going to save you. Going out to the camp 4 times a week is not going to save you. But it's ultimately the spirit of predestination. But if you're predestined to call, you're going to show forth that with your works. Okay. 1 Timothy 4, and I'm going to start at verses, let's start at verses 9. It says, this is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptation. For therefore we both labor and suffer reproach, because we trust in the living God, who is the Savior of all men, especially those that believe. Okay, so obviously your works constitute of whether you believe or not, or whether you don't believe. Because if you kind of in this thing, you're like, well, I'm just going to just do the bare minimum. That's not the spirit to be in, because ultimately the Lord is not going to deliver you with the bare minimum deliverance. Okay, he's not going to send a chariot that got a check engine light to come pick your black ass up. No. Okay, we getting out of here in style. So how much more we show our gratuity to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, even through the days we don't feel like it. Because Elder D-Man said it. He said sometimes it could just be a test. Sometimes the Lord can make it feel like the spirit ain't knowing you, to see if you're going to keep pushing. Okay, to test your endurance. Because it's not going to be any easier. And the more you level up in this thing, the more harder it's going to get. Why? Because, hey, this thing is all about leveling up, increasing through the spirit. But if you're not increasing and you're remaining stagnant, then you're not bringing forth living waters, then the spirit can't dwell in you, because you're too acidic. Okay? And it says, these things command and teach. Okay? Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word and in conversation, which conversation goes into your conduct. Okay? In word. Okay? Be a preacher of your word. Like they say, practice what you preach, in charity, in spirit, and in faith, and in purity, man. Till I come, give attendance to reading and exhortation and to doctrine. Okay? So that's the point. We got to be diligent in what we do. We can't slack off, because oftentimes if you water one garden and you leave one unattended, that garden is going to wither away and die, and you feel it. And it says, not neglect not the gift that is in thee, which was given thee by prophecy, but the laying on of the hands of the presbytery, which presbytery goes into what they call stand with the elders. Okay, that's the definition of presbytery. Means standing with the elders or with the aged. Okay. It says, meditate upon these things, give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. But take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine, continue in them, for in doing this thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee. Okay, and that's the point, being an example. Because you can't have followers if you're not leading by example. Okay, if you're not taking heed to wise counsel, if you're not looking at the examples that's being set above you. Okay, you have to take example of that, because we're one body. You see what I'm saying? So, hey, if you want to lead men and you want your fruit to remain, you have to show forth the example, because the link is only as good as its leader. Okay, or its weakest link. You see? So we got to keep that in mind, brothers, man, to stay sharp and stay on point no matter how hard it gets, because honestly, it's going to get a lot harder. And I'm personally speaking, it's gotten harder for myself. It has, man, because it's been it's been too much shit going on, personally, in the spirit, in the world. Prophecy has been a lot of things that's been happening here, man, But regardless of that, we still got to push forth. Okay. So this is the book of Hebrews 4. And I'm going to start at verses 11. It says, let us labor, therefore, to enter into that rest, lest any man fall at the same example of unbelief. And how do you labor? By showing diligence in his work. Okay, by being occupied in prophecy, by being interested in what you're doing, by reading reading scriptures to your spirit, studying, whatever you got to do. Looking at videos, like oftentimes if I can't get a chance to read, if I'm too burnt out, because there's been times I just read and I fell asleep with the book in my hand. Literally just fell asleep on the book because I'm too tired, I'm too overwhelmed. So in order to make up from that, what I do personally, I watch videos, man. You know, I watch videos and I try to retain on what I'm remembering. Then I go back and I research it. You know, when you have the time, because you have to utilize your leisure time in probable manner, in a balance. Okay, because the scriptures go into men that have much leisure. If you have much leisure to study and do what you have to do, then you know you're gonna be 8-1. Okay, but regardless of that, just a couple more precepts, nothing too much. 1 Peter 2:21. And it reads here, it says, "For what glory is it if when ye be buffeted for your faults, ye should take it patiently? But if ye do well and suffer for it, ye take it patiently, this is accepted with the Most High. For even hereunto where you were called, because the anointed also suffered for us, leaving us an example that they should follow in his steps." Okay, so it's all about leading by example, man. Okay, all about example, brothers, and we got to keep that in mind. All right, so anyway, with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Blessings and salutations to the whole elect. And with that, Shalom and a Bible ball.